Well, it's time to rank the top 5 movies of 2017. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one today. I'm the Movie Ranker, and today I'm doing my top 5 movies of 2017, my personal top 5 favorite. 2017 was a pretty great year. I mean, I could give you my top 20, and they're all excellent picks, so this was a really tough list to come up with, to narrow it down to 5. I'd love to hear your favorite movies from 2017. Drop them in the comment section. Like I said, a lot of options in this year. There was a lot of great stuff. I'll be dropping my honorable mentions later in the video. Like and subscribe so you don't miss out on anything in the future. And let's get into it. So to kick things off, at number 5, I'm going with the movie Get Out. Jordan Peele's directorial debut. And let me tell you, knocked it out of the park. Fantastic film, especially for your first film. And this coming from a comedian and, stepping into the more thriller, horror subgenre. He just does such a great job. The story about this couple, the boyfriend going to meet the girlfriend's family. Of course, he's black, they're white. And this being interracial relationship, you know how much tension in that can bring, meeting the family members and how they're going to like him and everything. But this one takes that to the next level, the tension. I mean, something's definitely off with this family and you're trying to figure out what's really going on. It's just dripped in mystery from start to finish, and the payoff is huge and very satisfying. And these themes are not just dealing with race and stuff like this, but missing black folks too, because the community she's from has a lot of missing black folks and nobody really seems to be looking into it or anything. So it just has so much to say about black culture and just the scenarios people can get themselves into when dealing with an interracial couple, meeting the family or whatnot. So he handles all this so well. We also get top-notch performances here. Daniel Kaluuya, I think his name is the main lead and knocks it out of the park. He's great. Allison Williams plays the girlfriend. Very convincing characters, convincing actors in here. Top notch once again. I love all the characters, the good, the bad. They're all very interesting. I like how her family, once you figure out what's going on, they all play an important role in their plan. And it's just very unique. And just like the foreshadowing of them hitting the deer at the start, and the deer is like helpless and like kind of paralyzed, can't move, but still alive, kind of reflects on events that take place later in the film with the hypnosis and everything. So just a really clever film at the end of the day. I think the little bit of humor that is added in is really great too, and placed at the right moments. Like I said, Jordan Peele being a comedian, he knows how to balance the tone in this. It definitely never interrupts the flow of the film or the tone when he does have comedy moments, and it's usually with our main lead's friend who's like works for the TSA, and he's on the phone with them trying to figure out what's going on. That's kind of the only comedy we get, but it's perfectly delivered and at the right times. So yeah, just a brilliant original film. Up next at number 4, I got Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. Just such a fun movie. Maybe not a perfect film or nothing, but I have a blast every time I put this on. I grew up with the original Jumanji and was a huge fan of that. And this one was just a great modern version of that, definitely switching things up. I think the cast was brilliant. This was the last good movie probably that The Rock has been in, that Kevin Hart's been funny in. Jack Black, Karen Gillan is great in here too. She's hilarious. But yeah, this is probably really one of the last movies where all those actors were at the top of their game and everything. So they're just brilliant in this. They really work off of their personas, the real life personas, and how all the tropes that these characters and actors get themselves into, like The Rock's always playing the tough guy who raises his eyebrow and all this and is like, indestructible basically. They play on that in this film, and you get all these young teens who get sucked into a video game, the Jumanji game, and they become these people as avatars, The Rock, Kevin Hart and all that, and it's just super hilarious. seeing their interactions. They all had great chemistry with each other too, those actors. I love all the rules to Jumanji in this world. How, they all have like 3 lives, and after that you don't respawn anymore. You're basically dead. How they all have their own special set of skills and weaknesses. I thought that was really cool too. It's just really well thought out. It's always having a good fun time, with the jokes, with the action. It keeps you entertained. The only little nitpick is probably the villain in here. He's very forgettable, but at the end of the day, he's not all that important. It's more about the journey, about the characters' interactions and the jokes and whatnot. And I think this is a good follow-up to the original. It's still kind of faithful to the franchise. So I just really enjoyed this film. It was great in theaters, and I have fun returning watching it every time. Up next at number 3, I'm going with DC's Wonder Woman. One of my personal favorite films from the DCEU. I'm not a huge fan of that whole timeline franchise as a whole, but this is definitely one of the top films for me in that franchise. Gal Gadot gives her best performance probably ever. This is probably my favorite thing she's ever been in, and she does a decent job for her performance. She has the look down pat. I like how we get a background on her as a kid and where she was from, her world and everything, and how it collides with our world during World War One, which I thought was really cool. You get a great scene where she's in our world and she's in the trenches in World War One, and my favorite part of the movie where she's taking on bullets and just deflecting them and everything, and just advancing for the American soldiers and the Allies, really pushing on the German troops. So that is such a fun part of the movie, my favorite. I like the fish out of water aspects with her in our world, but also with Chris Pine's character when he's in her world at the start. I think both sides are great, and Gal Gadot and Chris Pine have great chemistry with each other. I think that's another reason why this movie works so well, and it doesn't hurt that Wonder Woman has like the most badass theme song in all of DC, in my opinion. The only thing that rivals it is the X-Men theme from the 90s cartoon, but damn, these are two of my favorite theme songs in all of any comic book movies. So I love that about this. Some people claim the CGI doesn't look good or nothing, but I find it looks great personally, and it doesn't affect the movie or anything. The ending could have been a bit better when she's taken on Ares, the main villain, at the very end. It kind of happens quickly, and it's a little bit of that I admit's kind of too much CGI overblown little battle, but small little nitpick. The rest of the film is fantastic. Love the score, love the cinematography, love these characters, and like I said, it's a good fish out of water story. Much better than its sequel that we got later. So yeah, I really enjoyed this Wonder Woman movie. Up next at number 2, I'm going with Blade Runner 2049. What an amazing, powerful movie. It not only complements the original, but actually makes that movie even better, in my opinion. And these make a really nice double feature at the end of the day. Directed by Denis Villeneuve. I don't know if that's how he pronounces his name or not, or Denis Villeneuve. One of his best films. I know we get so much praise for the Dune movies. I'm not a fan of those, but I like everything else that he's done. People called me, oh, you just don't like sci-fi if you don't like the Dunes. It's like, I like every other sci-fi thing except for the Dune movies. So, it's just those. But this is friggin' perfection. It's so damn good. It's so beautiful to watch, for one thing. The cinematography is insane. Watch this on the best TV you have. Go buy the 4K and everything. It's just jaw-dropping, the visuals in this. It gets you immersed in the world. And not only that, the story does as well, of course. This one has such deliberate pacing. It's not the quickest pacing, but every scene is important, impactful, and thought-provoking in one way or another. We follow Kay, played by Ryan Gosling. He's a cop, but he's also a replicant, this newer version replicant. And we're following this mystery, this journey that he's on, trying to discover, there's these replicants that could reproduce in the past. They just discovered that, and they're trying to uncover clues about that. The villain in this owns this company. He's the new big baddie, right? And he's trying to get his hands on the formula to create replicants that can reproduce themselves, right? Because he can make replicants. He just can't figure out the formula to get them impregnated and, reproduce themselves. So that's basically the story of this one. And you're just following this mystery. And throughout, you're kind of believing that K is the first son that was ever reproduced as from a replicant, right? You're made to believe that, and throughout the film, it's just becoming more and more convincing that that's the case. But there's a twist; it doesn't really work out that way, and I thought it was really brilliantly played out the way the story goes, and it keeps you interested. Like I said, it's very thought-provoking. It makes you question things like, do replicants deserve the same treatment as humans? Should they have the same laws? Should they have the same benefits and values that humans have? Should they be treated the same? Because at this point, the replicants are pretty much very close to humans at this point, especially if they can reproduce. So it just makes you question so many things, and movies are great for doing that when they're able to do that. It's very powerful, in its themes, in its social commentary. The performances are fantastic all around, from Ryan Gosling to Ana de Armas to Dave Bautista even gives a great performance in here for the little bit of screen time he has. Like I said, the story is just interesting from start to finish. Has a longer runtime, but it keeps you hooked throughout. So it's a fantastic film that's even better than the original. In my opinion, this sequel tops that. So the world building is incredible. The performances, the cast, the cinematography, you name it. Everything is great about this film, even the score. So it was hard not to put this in first place, but my top 5 is really stacked for me personally. And before I get into my number 1, here's a few honorable mentions. It. 68 Kill. The Babysitter. War of the Planet of the Apes. Baby Driver. Tragedy Girls. Mayhem. Better Watch Out. But for me, coming in the first place, it was tough, but I had to go with the movie Logan. Probably my favorite X-Men movie, one of my favorite Marvel movies of all time. I just love how serious it is, how down to earth it is, how gritty, how emotional it can get. And it just feels more real than most comic book movies, right? Just on how grounded in that it is. It still has some supernatural stuff, don't get me wrong, but just the way the tone is and just the way it was directed, it was done in a really grounded way, and it made you care for the characters that much more. Logan himself is just, everybody's in such a rough place at the starting of this film. From Logan, being down in the dumps, drinking all the time and everything, taking care of Professor Xavier, who has a condition now, and his telekinesis, his brain stuff goes out of whack and can really harm a lot of people, right? So they're dealing with a lot of negativity in their lives and just trying to get by, basically. Mutants are getting hunted down and all this. And then enters this little girl, Laura. And she was made by Weapon X using the DNA of Logan. So technically she's kind of like his offspring. And Logan gets like a new purpose in life, to protect this girl at all cost. And by the end, when what happens to him with Logan, it just becomes so emotional with her looking over top of Logan as he's dying, being impaled, and a guy you thought would never be able to die, but this was the way to do it. It was super emotional when she calls him dad, she sees him as a father, and it's just, you can't wrap up a movie any better than this. And on top of all that, it doesn't offend the rest of the franchise. It still makes sense within the world, and it's gritty. The action is really fun to watch as well, and it's super R-rated. And this wasn't going to be R-rated. This was actually made to be PG-13, but after the success of Deadpool being R-rated, they decided making this R-rated, and I'm so glad they did. The movie really needed that. Like I said, another thing that just makes it stand out from a lot of the other X-Men movies, because Deadpool's R-rated as well, but it's much more silly and goofy, where this one, like I said, it is very much more serious, and I just really appreciate for that. And it's incredibly emotional at the end of the day, and in a way satisfying. I mean, it's sad, but it's still satisfying the way things play out. So yeah, that's why Logan is number one for me in 2017. So there you have it, guys. There's my top 5 movies of 2017. A hell of a year. Really hard to narrow it down to 5. And don't take my placements too seriously in my top 5. I love all 5 of those movies, and depending on the day they can switch placements. But of course, this is all just my opinion. I'd love to hear what's your top 5 movies of 2017. Like I said, there were so many options. It's a great year for not only horror and action, but every genre really. So would love to hear it. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the channel and want to continue watching rankings and top 5s like this. Also follow me on Instagram and Letterboxd. Links to those are always in the description of my videos, guys. Hope you enjoyed this, and until next time, thanks for watching.